Um, I would like to speak a little bit about my trip to New York and to New Jersey. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama gave a 2-day teaching on Kamala Shila's the middle stages of meditation, as well as Vaitara empowerment, and the organizers, the North American Tibetan Association, they organized a Tenshuk, a long life puja for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Because the cause for this whole event was to celebrate the Holiness's 80th birthday. And it was amazing. I didn't expect that. About 12,500 Tibetans attended, and only 100 Europeans or Americans. And some other cultures from Russia and the Kalmyks and Mongolia and such. It was exceptionally to see all those Tibetans together and to celebrate His Holiness's 80th birthday and to do this long life prayer for his, as Richard Gere said, the 90s, his 100th birthday, this 110th birthday, this 120 birthdays. And everybody was so happy to hear that and really wished that from their heart. His Holiness shared with us the teaching. He gave the full transmission of the Kamala Shila's stages of meditation, and it was very inspiring to hear him teach so directly and to learn about how to develop shamatha and how to combine it with special insight. And he combined it with many stories. There was a lot of laughter, and he encouraged especially the Tibetans to really study, to integrate the teachings into their life, especially the tenet system. With this program, there came also a cultural program. So after the teachings on Kamala Shila's meditations, instructions, he gave a Vaitara empowerment. And after the Vaitara empowerment, the Tibetans did the long life puja for His Holiness. And on the second day, they didn't told us, so we didn't know really what was going on. And then, surprisingly, there was a cultural program with speakers by different political leaders or advisors, and also the Prime Minister, I put it down, the Prime Minister of the Central Tibetan Administration, Lobsang Sangye, then Valerie Jarrett, the senior advisor to President Obama, Nancy Pelosi, the former speaker, I think, of the former President George Bush, and then also Richard Gere. The Tibetans loved him so much. It was incredible to see them applauding and laughing with him together, and he praised him so much. He's following the Dalai Lama since centuries, I don't know how long, but at least 30 years, all over the globe. Yeah, it was, I had to cry many times because to see the Tibetans so united and to that they had the opportunity to be with His Holiness so directly, all together in North America. So I never experienced that before in Europe or something. They have been mostly the minority there when His Holiness taught. After this trip, our friends Tracy Morgan and Tracy Trescher from New York, Tracy Morgan is a long-time student of Venerable Dr. Shödrin, and Tracy Trescher, also a very devoted student and volunteer. We went to New Jersey, to the Tibetan Learning Center, what is the oldest center in the West, Tibetan center in the West. And that as well was a very inspiring trip to do. What I think it's, for every Buddhist practitioner, it's a must. You say, you have to go there. It's a pilgrimage, and especially you have to have the opportunity to speak with Diana and Joshua Cutler about the history of the center, about Geshe Wangyal, who was the founder of the center. And I didn't know so much before I went about Geshe Wangyal's life, who was also called Bakshi, and he is born in 1901 and 1983 he died, and his parents has been of Karmic origin. And he studied in Lhasa, and he managed his Geshe degree in 7 years, what normally takes about 16 to 20 years. So he must have been incredibly intelligent, and he also studied medicine, so he was a doctor. And Geshe Wangyal, he was working to be able to buy a property first somewhere else in New Jersey in 58, and then about 10 years later they moved to another part of New Jersey, and he bought another property what was more convenient for this amount of people who came. And one of those students who studied with him has been, for example, Jeffrey Hopkins or Robert Thurman, and in the beginning of the 70s, also Diana and Joshua Cutler. The center is called Lapsum Shetrop Ling, or Tibetan Learning Center, the Center for Teaching and Practicing the Three Trainings: Ethical Discipline, Meditative Concentration, and Wisdom. And at that time, when Geshe Wangyal founded the center, it was very, very traditional, according to the monastic system and the Tibetan tradition. But he was very oriented towards establishing Buddhism in the West. So on a very, he was not focused on establishing monasticism, actually. He invited many geshes from India or Mongolia, but he was really oriented to teach the main teachings from Tibetan Buddhism in the West, especially for Americans. And he encouraged his American students also to get university degrees, a doctor or professor at the universities, what they did. This Tibetan Learning Center is so blessed by not only Geshe Wangyal's presence and what he did to establish it, but also they had His Holiness the Dalai Lama visiting about 6 times. And it's big. So far as I have never seen another center here in the West, in America, but they have a big temple with big statues, a very tall Shakyamuni statue and Maitreya statue, and it's influenced by the buildings or the temple especially is influenced by the Vietnamese tradition and Japanese tradition, so it's beautiful. And they have also 108 prayer wheels. You can circumambulate the whole temple, and they have a stupa, and they have a schoolhouse and accommodation for monks, and a hermitage, a wonderful hermitage up the mountain, and then you are really in the middle of a jungle, there's nothing else. And they offer continuously teachings in Tibetan Buddhism, especially Tibetan philosophy, but with the approach to apply the teachings in your daily life. And now, I don't know exactly when, maybe you can help me, Geshe Tapke, who's an Indian scholar, professor, he is coming annually for 6 months a year to teach and to work on different projects, translation projects, or book projects at the center, greatly supported by Joshua Cutler, who is a translator, a very good practitioner in my eyes, and yeah, Diana and Joshua Cutler are now, since Geshe Wangyal's death, the so-called administrator successors. Do you say that like that? And they hold the whole center according to what Geshe Wangyal started with. And while I was there, I really could feel it. They hold so strongly to keep going what he wished, how the Tibetan Learning Center should be like. And they did it with such joy and with such effort. It was very, very inspiring. Jeffrey Hopkins, who was one of the students of Geshe Wangyal, he said, "The scholar adept Geshe Wangyal was the first to bring Tibetan Buddhism to America. He had extraordinary love and humor as well as ferocity. He taught untiringly. To live with him was to live with emptiness." And while we talked with Joshua and Diana Cutler, who shared with us a lot about Geshe Wangyal's life and about the history of the Tibetan Center, I really could get a feeling of his life and how much he gave all of himself to his students. They greeted us incredibly warmly. I felt like being in a family, yeah, as if I'm part of it, and they invited us so so gladly, and it was really amazing. I really encourage everybody to go to visit New Jersey, the Tibetan Learning Center, and to learn about history of America's Buddhism in the West. Yeah, and do so soon, so you can talk with Diana and Joshua Cutler too, because that is a very important part of that. Thank you.